evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 304th take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show. One of my favorite guests is back, and we're going to talk about some pretty amazing things and some pretty amazing milestones as well. So you definitely want to stay tuned. Before we get to formal introductions, of course, we do have to thank the people that make this show possible, and that, of course, is our sponsors. And tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate is firing up the cigar world with the announcement of the Herrera Esteli Tienda Exclusiva Inctome Exclusive 2024 release, only at Maximar and Small Batch Cigar. This unique edition comes packed in newly designed box packaging, setting a new standard in exclusivity and collector's appeal. I think our guest might have something to say about that. The Herrera Esteli Tienda Exclusiva Inctome, known for its bold blends and captivating stories, continues to be a symbol of innovation and craftsmanship under the Drew Estate umbrella. Crafted with precision and care, this latest release is poised to deliver an unparalleled smoking experience to aficionados around the globe. Featuring a dark Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, a Honduran filler, and Honduran binder and Nicaraguan filler in a beautiful 6x46 box press format. This is a full body experience that you'll never forget. So check out Maximar and Small Batch Cigar for this exclusive from Drew Estate, the Herrera Esteli Tienda Exclusiva Inctome Exclusive 2024 release. And welcome, everybody. This is our 304th take. So we're glad you're tuning in to us. If you are watching live on Facebook Live with us, if you were catching us later, wherever you happen to listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Tonight's audio broadcast is courtesy of Gran Habano Cigars. Honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today, courtesy of Gran Habano Cigars. But without further ado, tonight's guest is sponsored by United Cigars. Smoke one today and start living united. Yes, it's Mr. Omar de Frias of Fratello Cigars. Omar, how you doing tonight?
I feel good, baby. I feel good. I'm excited to be back on this show, buddy. How you been?
You know, living the dream one day at a time. You know, that's the motto. That's the motto. That's how we got to go. Got to roll with it. You know, things like that.
I love it.
We're going to be obviously talking about your background here in a little bit, but let's get to get some tradition. It doesn't look like you're smoking tonight, but I definitely need to light up a cigar here soon, or I'm gonna.
Me too. I'm in bad shape too. I'm in bad shape, and I sent you some cigars, by the way, but I sent them like 2 days ago, so it's gonna arrive a little bit late. But I wanted us to smoke the same thing, and I was like, damn, I couldn't make it in time.
Oh, I appreciate it. I will definitely. But you know, I've always got Fratello Cigars on hand, and I've got some good ones here. So. I want you to go ahead and choose my cigar tonight. So I've got a few to choose from here. So I've got the little one here, the Fratello Fuoco Oro.
Beautiful.
Little creamy gem. And then I've got, of course, the Arlequin Corona, the 5.5x48. Okay.
Big fan.
You know I couldn't come to the show without a boxer, so I brought the I brought a Navetta with me today.
Beautiful.
This one's actually 4 years old. Believe it or not.
Wow. I love it. It's gonna smoke like a beauty.
And then I've also got a Inverso as well, but this is the Toro. And then of course something I know we're gonna be talking a lot tonight. I have both the Connecticut and the Cameroon. I've got the Fratello Lunars.
I love it. What
am I lighting up?
I think you should light up the Lunar Cameroon for sure.
The Lunar,
give the Lunar Cameroon.
Cameroon?
The Cameroon.
Okay.
Yeah, let's give the Lunar Cameroon a ride for sure. Because I was smoking it earlier when I was walking around the neighborhood to spread on my mind a little bit, and that's the one that I lit up, and it was so good.
Decompress on the day a little bit. Sounds good.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and give this a cut here. And
beautiful.
Then light it up with my ST DuPont Fluo lighter. Have you seen these new the new Fluo collection?
Show me. Let me see it.
Yeah, these electric colors. They have these like really modern colors. This one's orange.
Oh wow,
that's the electric orange. They have the green and there's a electric blue too. It's like they're really cool. But this is the Maxi Jack, which I've always been a fan. Have you ever owned an ST DuPont?
I have. I actually own the small, similar the one that you have right there, but all in red.
Oh,
obviously, because Fratello red.
There you go. Yeah.
It's a gift from a friend of mine.
Nice. Yeah, the mini jets are really good
Yeah.
products, and I mean, and I had I had a gift. Mike Peacock gifted us one as a member of his staff back in the day, so we had a mini jets. They were really great too. So yeah, then
Yeah.
those fantastic products.
Love it. I miss Mike. I haven't been to Texas in a hot second, so I got to get my way out there and say hello.
Oh man, well I'm excited about smoking this cigar today. So well,
Love
awesome.
it.
Well, I know it's funny. I was actually going to ask about it just because I wanted to congratulate you on your daughter graduating from high school back in May, and then
Thank you.
she elected to attend American University. That's a pretty impressive school.
Yeah, man.
What's and I know she just probably started a couple weeks ago and everything. What what made her decide? Was it the close to home? Was it a special program? I mean, congratulations, both a high
Thank
school
you.
graduate and getting accepted to such a great university.
Thank you. It's been interesting to say the least, because when she decided that she wanted to stay close, I mean, she had some opportunities to go to Virginia Tech, out in Blacksburg, Virginia, which is about 4.5 hour drive, and a few other places. I know she wanted to stay in state, but when the opportunity came about with American University, I thought it was a great opportunity for her. She's going to study business, and she has an interest in international relations, and so you cannot get a better mixture. It's one of the top schools for political science in the country.
Hmm.
So when it comes to a mixture of of diversity and other things that the people can do, it's an incredible choice for her. So I'm excited out of my mind, because I have her close, and I did not know how much of a when they tell you, oh, get ready for the empty nesters and all this and all that stuff. It's the same thing, Bear, as when they say, hey, you just had a kid, man, you're gonna have a kid. Remember to sleep as much as you possibly can. They always say it, or it's sleep, sleep,
Right.
sleep. It don't matter after you can sleep all you want. You're still gonna be sleep deprived. It's still gonna be a disaster, but you don't see it until it happens. And so, kind of like this very similar thing happened to me with my daughter now leaving for college. And like I said, it's been 2.5, 3 weeks since she's on board. And although she is incredibly close, we are very close as a family, and so I definitely feel her absence. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know it's got to be tough. I can't imagine, but like you said, it's like one of those things when they tell you when they say something. The most annoying thing about becoming a parent was how everything the parents told you like was true. Like it,
100%.
yeah, the all the unsolicited advice was absolutely correct, and it was so annoying. It's like, God dang it, I wanted that to be wrong, and it's always
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
It's always right.
100%, 100%. And when they said, my mother said this probably the most ever, was like, just wait till you have one, because it's gonna be, if she comes out like you, she's gonna be a hand, or he's gonna be a handful. And my kids are great, man, but they definitely have been a handful.
Well, like you said, about the diversity of American University, I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, what a great opportunity. I mean, so many people have come through that school. I mean, there's so many, heads of state,
yeah.
political folks from all different countries, international and stuff.
Yeah,
Does she speak any different languages? Is she studying?
it's English and Spanish. That's it.
Okay.
And she's looking to do some Mandarin as well, so
Oh
that she
wow.
can complement that, because I think it's incredibly powerful. I mean, it's only 15% of all mankind that actually speaks more than three languages or more, and so that gives her a tremendous advantage. And I'm always, me, man, I'm always pushing for more education, more things, more learning, and so I'm always the one kind of like pushing her and say, hey, continue to do this, because we got way more where that came from. So get ready.
Nice. Nice. Good for her, man. That's
Yeah,
fantastic,
man.
and I know you must be really proud.
Very
Um,
proud.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and kick off and get into tonight's
I'm
major
gonna
point.
smoke a cigar with you, buddy. I'm gonna go smoke a cigar with you, because
Sure.
I need it so
You need
bad.
it?
I am in desperate need, so I'm gonna go into the humidor here and see what we got. I'm gonna pull out a Naveta. That's what I'm gonna do.
There we go.
I'm gonna pull out a Naveta. So let's get stick it, baby. Let's just talk to me.
What's that?
Give it to me. What are we talking about
All right.
tonight, baby?
All right. So let's go ahead and get into tonight's major point, which is brought to you by Gran Habano Cigars. From the further lands of Honduras, George Rico and his family have put together the best vintages for you. Yes, you, the cigar smoker. From value-based hits like Corojo Number 5 to the award-winning 20th anniversary special projects like Zulu Zulu, Gran Habano is about cultivating the best and making pinnacle cigars for the market. Culture, tradition, quality, premium handcrafted Gran Habano cigars. Well, Omar, I know you and I had the opportunity to talk about it at PCA, but I mean, it's been a little bit since we've had you back here, and we can't let a huge milestone go by without celebrating 10 years, 10 plus years in the business, man. What a fantastic achievement. What? So
I don't begin with something like that, bro, because it's so intense. I got into this and have no idea. Can you see me well? Everything is good with the itch and all good.
The image is frozen a little bit, and the audio.
You can see me good, right?
Now I got
there?
you. Yeah, now I got you.
Perfect.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, buddy. My bad. I'm situated. We're all good now.
Okay.
So dude, major milestone for on every I I look back at this 10 years, Bear. I don't even know how I made it over here. I'm serious, man. I mean, there is so much like so many great cigars, so many great companies, so many fantastic businesses, so many great family-owned businesses, and I feel so humbled to be part of this whole thing. But I can't lie, man. I didn't even think we were gonna get to this, get to the situation where we are right now. So I do feel humbled by it. So I appreciate you giving me, some kudos on that because every business I know, 95% of them, they run the scores by year 5 because they either run out of cash or they got other priorities and the premium cigar industry is you know is part of that whole
It's a tough
process too
game.
as well. So it's a very tough game, man.
Yeah. I
It's a
mean,
very tough game.
like the age old joke, man. If you want to make $1 million in this business, start with two.
That is the 100% the truth, brother. Had I really wanted to make an enormous amount of money, I would have stayed at NASA and kept my job and do this at the same time,
Right.
and I would have been a gazillionaire right now. But no, no, no. Omar wants to go all in, buddy.
Nice. Well, here's a question I had for you. I was gonna save this for another segment, but I just can't resist here. What's something that when you first started this business 10 plus years ago, what was a word that you wanted people to say when they smoke Fratello cigars? And has that changed in 10 years?
Give it to me again. What is something that because I kind of
When
like
you
I
first
lost you
start,
a
yeah,
little
when
bit.
you first started the business, when you first started Fratello, what was a word you wanted people to use to describe their experience with Fratello cigars when you first started?
Man, that's a fantastic question. Um, I wanted to create uh, moments with Fratello all the time. And this will make a lot of sense to you, Bear, because we met each other probably when you were still working at um, the with Mike Peacock in Texas, and it was what I tried to do the whole time was just to basically create moments that people would remember. And I'm a rememberable guy myself because I mean, with 6'9", 300 pounds, bald headed, it's not like I can hide anywhere and see how things go, right? But I wanted to create moments, and so has that changed? As I see in retrospect, the last 10 years, I feel like what has changed for me is the way I'm going about it. The first 4, 5, 6 years with Fratello, you got to also bear in mind, Bear. I was fully, full time employed at NASA at the same time. So I was running this business, and in the first 4 years, I was also working full time at NASA, which is, crazy to begin with. but that experience, that entire experience of me in those first 5 years where I just want to get known and I just want my people to smoke my cigar, that was the only focus. Like I didn't have any focus of I want to be, this multi-million dollar brand. I don't want this particular product to have this. I didn't have any of that, man. I just wanted people to know who we are. And it sounds silly, it sounds stupid, but it's so hard because you have to travel to every corner, especially if you want to be a national brand, which at the time I honestly didn't even know where I kind of fit in the whole process, Bear. But
Right.
I did know that I wanted people to create moments using Fratello. Yeah, that even if that was walking a dog or hanging around with their family or whatever it was, man. I just wanted to get people to that so that people could have access to my cigar. So that was my
Right.
biggest focus. Then 5 years after that, my focus most definitely changed because I saw my business grow, by double and triple digits year after year. And as we started to grow and as we started to cement our foot inside this industry where we are now a known brand, people recognize us when we go to events, which is incredibly hard at the same time. And we can go into that whole aspect of branding in a second, but it has been more about how do we set up Fratello as a business that it can have longevity instead of just I just want to get known. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so now we have gone through the last 5 years, and this is the part that we focused on the business itself, on how do we make it sustainable? How do we have a brand that can overlast me, um, and that can have perpetuity, right? So as you look into so many of these other brands, I mean, it takes, as you obviously know, 15, 20 years sometimes to create a very solid brand. One thing is to sell an enormous amount of cigars or be hot for a second, and we've all gone through the situation. The other thing is to sustain a long-term growth without that incredible footing, of somebody spearheading it nonstop. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that has been my focus in the last 5 6 years. A lot of it has been into hiring the right people, put them in the right places, creating the right processes and procedures, creating the right strategies with our factories, doing a better work with inventory management, doing a better work with our CRM and customer relationships, and managing our 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 our, our portfolio, launching the right, so that I'm telling you, right, in the most exotic far. And so it has been what has changed between the first 5 years where I've been in the business. And I honestly don't know any other better way to explain this or say it, and answering your question, because it's 100% the truth.
Yeah.
Had I not done that first 5 years where I had met, you know, I probably have been in, 2, 3,000 plus retail stores where I nonstop travel, nonstop, knocking on doors. Like you remember, you probably saw me in one calendar year 2 or 3 times in that
Hmm.
store, and I was still employed at NASA. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. No, I
So
remember.
that effort of that grind on the first 5 years, that solid grind of not letting loose and continuing to push for people to try our cigars and just smoke them and just and establishing those relationships has really been what has cemented Fratello Cigars, and will continue to cement Fratello Cigars for longevity because of that effort that we did. 100%. I know it's a long answer, buddy, but it was
No, no,
it
it's
was
it's
needed.
it's really there's kind of a lot to pick apart there because I mean one of the things I wanted to ask you about was like again you mentioned all the travel and the grind of those first 5 years. And one thing I heard, and one of the things I remember because I remember talking about this inside the cigar shop, and then like by extension having this conversation several other times whenever your name came up. And one of the things this is very very early on that I was like, well, one of the things I really respect about Omar is there's a lot, but one of the things that I thought from a from a from a brand and manufacturer to a retailer sense. One of the things I respected about you, I was like, this guy tackled Texas by himself, and it's an incredibly hard market. Like it's an incredibly, like you hear,
Yes.
to break into this industry, like if you're a brand that's unknown, to break into Texas is incredibly difficult. I saw so many brands, good
Oh my God.
brands, fail at it over the years. And that was one of the things that I really respected about you, was that you did it, and you did it not virtually on your own, you did it on your own. And
Yeah.
you got known in one of the hardest markets in this business. And
So hard.
so
It goes. I'll pick up on that real quick because I know there's a lot of areas that I touched upon that we need to discuss, but it's so hard because there have been, and I've analyzed them all. That's what I did at NASA. I was an analyst. This is what I am honestly at my peak of my knowledge is when I go down and try to understand different brands and different ideas on how they come into market and how they push it and what happens and the elevation of it and the growth. And you may have brands that are on fire at one point on social media and everybody's talking about them. Then you have another one that's on, that just gets out of the gate and it's just on fire. And then all of a sudden it starts slowing down. And then you start kind of like seeing it back up. You miss the most important part of this industry is the relationship based part of this is period.
right.
The amount of good cigars that are being produced right now is incredible. We could probably, you and I, go into inside a humidor right there with my Peacock and just pick up a cigar without even looking at it, and we could say that it may not be down our flavor profile, but we cannot say it's probably a bad constructor, a bad cigar as a whole, because of the quality of the products that we're seeing right now is so incredible. And so to break and maintain, and again, you're gonna have customers that come in and customers that depart, and some that do well and some that don't. And all of that is always going to be the case, not only with Fratello, but with every other small brand that doesn't have the footing over 25 to 30 years of maintenance, of continuous growth in an industry like Oliva, like Padron, like my father, like all of these companies that have so much, that have longevity, right?
Right.
And so you're 100% right. Breaking through Texas and then making it a national brand is probably one of the hardest things, and it's only achieved. It has nothing to do with a cigar. It has only achieved with relationships. Period. End of story. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cigar there. People are expecting already for you to have something that you're coming in that is very very strong, and that is an expectation. But then the relationship aspect of this business after that is just a whole different ballgame.
Well, and then what I liked with what I just kind of reflecting on the past 10 years with this, Omar, what I really liked and I've always enjoyed your cigars, and you know that, but the thing that I've really liked about the consistency, obviously, is the branding's always been on point. There's this constant branding, and you did it in such a, this word gets thrown around so much, but we've talked about it. You did it in such a unique way, but it was consistent. It's the diagonal.
Yep.
It's the diagonal, cigar labels, um, and much to the chagrin of the people in the factory. I know they don't like putting your labels on, but I mean,
Hated
it's
it.
just, yeah, it's your trademark, and it's really good. But even more so than that was just on the blending, and I think this was really smart by you, is you bought into a lot of trends. I would call them micro trends that were going on in the time,
Yeah.
but you did it really smartly, and you were able to bring something that was different to the market when it came to it. So like when Bianco came out, like there was a real big surge of San Andreas wrap cigars.
Big surge.
And so there, here was another San Andreas offering, but it was different. Then you had the boxer was the constant differentiator too. That
Yeah.
was always my personal favorite, but it was really fun to play. And then of course, like the Oro, for example, and then this idea, what I think was really, and a lot of people don't talk about this, is right at the height, and it's kind of it's kind of gone away a little bit, but
Yeah.
right at the height of this, everyone needs to know every single detail about the cigar. Like I need to know not only the wrapper, binder, filler, I need to know what the priming is. I need to know what field it is. I need to know if it's left bank, right bank. Like the more information, like right at the height of the nerddom, you do the Inverso and the Navetta, right? So like you play with the wrapper right in front of us, and it's like
Yeah.
It was like these little subtle choices that you made that really played well in the marketplace. And as what I would consider a pretty tuned in consumer myself, like it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect. So
Yeah. Yeah.
like what
No, we've been pushing it. We've been pushing it on the innovation and and try to meet the craft with innovation. We've been definitely trying to push the limit on this there.
yeah, what I mean, so I mean, yeah, at some point you kind of there, at some point you just have to like hit the pause button or reset button in some cases and everything like that. But I mean, after 10 years, like what would you say is what would you say is the biggest challenge when developing new product and to your point, innovation?
The biggest challenge is you know try I know it always sounds, it sounds a little weird every single time I say it, but this is this is an industry that is rooted at its core in tradition. And every single time you try to break off a little bit to do different things, you always, get to the point that it's, probably somebody already has either tried it or hasn't been successful or has thought about it as well. Because even when we launched Vice Versa, which was an incredible feat to do, and nobody else has ever done it in the industry, and I think we killed it. It was an idea by Kevin Shanahan down in Florida, who was like, I'm not sure if you've ever thought about this, but I really loved what you did with the Inverso and all that stuff. And he brought me the idea, and I still I still nag at him every so often because all I need is a challenge that I don't that as I ask around everybody, nobody thinks we can do, and all of a sudden, then I just become obsessed over it. And 2.5 years later, I lose money. I get sued by by this one company, and then try to push it back on another, and all this crazy stuff that happened with it. But we created something very special with it, and I think it was the first time in the entire ever that we've ever had a cigar that you can choose as the consumer if you want to smoke it one way. Start off smoking it one way, and the cigar will start off mild, or you can start off smoking it the other way, and the cigar will start off strong. I mean, it was so complex to the point that we tried to do it again this year, and we were looking to potentially postpone it until 2026 because of how hard it is. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so that has been my challenge. My challenge has been to have to spend the time to think about how can I make something more unique, more different, just break through something in the industry, because I hate nothing more. I hate it with passion. I hate the copycat situations where this brand is trying to do what that brand does. And I get that some people try to carry on with specific successes of specific things, but that's not me. I love just creating new things. It's because it's exciting and it's innovative, and but it is very hard to do. I'll tell you, this year my number one goals was to do something again that would break through, that would be different, that no one else has done, and it just takes so much time. It
Right.
takes so much time to do that it slips away from you. So I'm looking into 2025, 2026 to potentially do some of the stuff that I was thinking about. So, but that will never stop us to continue to explore and try to become more innovative.
So one of the other things I noticed about too, going back to your grinding days too, like it's not like the grind ended. In fact, I feel like there's a lot of different grind today. Like you said, there's a lot more business behind it, managing logistics and so on. One of the things that I've noticed over the last few years is your international footprint, and you spend a lot of time. At least it feels like it. Again, you're a one-man show, so it's a lot different than other organizations, right? Where they might be able to spread it around. But like, it seems like you spend a lot of time internationally too, and have a lot of great relationships and international accounts and everything.
Yeah.
What was it about, you think, about Fratello that was attractive on the international market? That I mean, to be honest, Omar, like I know a lot of your colleagues in this space like have international space. You're not the only one to do it, so I'm not making it sound like you're the only one. But I, while you're here and while we're talking about it, I just thought, what do you think is it about Fratello that really speaks to the international smoker?
We've definitely done it differently. I will tell you that from some of my other competition, because I'm very happy to say that it's we're in 28 countries right now. Fratello's in 28 countries being sold. Our footprint internationally has grown to points that it's honestly incredible. But it was a specific effort to do it, and we started in 2016. Literally 3 years into me having Fratello, that I decided to go to Intertabac and come in and figure out a way that I can grow. I had already been in 2015, but it wasn't so much about business then. And in 2016, we started to grow. Now I'm like selling in the Qatar duty free, Bear. Like, and it's a
I saw you were in Dubai.
Dubai, we just made it into Dubai. We have a UAE distributor. We just made it into the Dubai duty free, which is the #1 duty free in the world. Okay, in terms of sales, $2.7 billion in sales alone out of this duty free, and Fratello has a presence in it. And I can tell you, I can count with less than 20 of the brands that are actually making it into the Dubai duty free, and so that is a massive expansion for Fratello, massive, amount of work, because it's not just about like, oh, you got an order from Dubai or the Qatar duty free and you're going to see how it goes. You got to have the product. You got to have it available. You got to have it ready. You got to have it registered. You got to have all the sanitary information. Right. I mean, the layers upon layers and layers and layers and layers that involve this is just ridiculous. And so, it was a very concentrated effort into making sure that our brand would be worldwide, right? Because I don't want to. I started with that idea from the very beginning. I'm surprised we even made it this far, but it's the fact that I tackled it. I tackled the U.S. market that first 3-4 years. I knew I needed to be on the road. I put myself on the hat. I read this book called Great CEOs Are Lazy. And one of the things that he says in this book is he talks about how do you get, to position yourself as a CEO in every different one of these hats. And one of those hats, it's the architect hat, right? And where you are playing and you're envisioning and you're orchestrating and you're organizing all of your areas so that you can have a certain level of success on that. But there's one that to me was the most important part, and how Fratello got its way into it was the player hat. It's when you get inside and you say, this is the hat I'm going to wear to go in and execute upon how do I get Fratello to be known in all these different places. And the only way that I was able to do that was by traveling. So the hat that I put on was the sales rep hat. So I was a sales rep, for 4 or 5 years at the beginning of this company, because honestly, I didn't come with the pedigree and the knowledge that some of these guys that are coming into this industry that have been around for
you didn't have the
10,
legacy.
15, 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
No, yeah. It's hard, because who the hell are you? Like, who are you? Like, I know who Saka is.
One hell of a story, though, Omar. One hell of a story.
That's true. That's true. I'm not trying to play myself down in that sense, but I am trying to, put it in perspective that it's for somebody like Ken Pennington out in Elite Cigars, or somebody like Gary Pesh in Old Virginia Tobacco, or somebody like Danny from Smoky Joe's, or somebody like Sahil here in Pennsylvania. These are people that I know at a personal level that has granted the access and the strength that Fratello has, because I've been able to meet them personally and maintain those relationships. And that is that is honestly the hardest thing to do at the very beginning. So I needed to wear that hat and sell, and I needed to wear the hat for international and do the exact same thing. The only issue with the international though, Bear, is that God, man, it's 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
7 years in the process just to get one meeting and then a second meeting. It took me 3 years of going to Dubai 3 times just so that I can land a meeting with the Dubai Duty Free. And actually now on Saturday of like yesterday is when the first, few pallets left so that we can fulfill that order.
Oh, wow.
It's so hard. It is
That's insane.
so international just takes 5 times it just takes 5 times longer to do anything international than it does here in the US.
How big is the percentage of that business for you? Is it like 10% or is that too much?
No, actually now like last year was about 15%.
Okay.
This year, thanks to like some new additions, we're making it about 22 to 25% of our business is coming from international, which is a lot for any brand.
Right.
It's a lot for any brand because the U.S. market is what dictates the entire rest of the world. But the growth that we've had international, man, I mean, it's been, but there's also, I can't say that it was also Fratello as well. Like, I mean, this is happening with every other brand in the United States, period. Because if they have a footprint overseas, if they don't have a footprint, then that's a different ballgame. But if they have a footprint, the whole situation with Habanos S.A. not having enough product to fulfill in so many of these areas, they were looking at the people to bring in a new product that already had the process in 2015.
Yeah.
And so I was able to carry on that wave as well. So it's been growing like crazy for us.
That's great. That's really fantastic. I just, that's one of the things that I thought that was unique about you. And it weighed on my consciousness just because last week we had John Carney, who just partnered with Bentley Tobacco, so it's the role reversal, right? He's bringing a European brand to the States. But to your point, there's a lot of need right now in the international space, and
massive. But at the same time, it's like if you as a brand that you haven't touched upon some of these international markets in a while, and you haven't been going, by the way, consistently year after year and spending thousands and thousands and thousands. One hotel night, $560, $700. Like I'm going next week. I'm going to Intertabac next week. I'm going to Romania first because I have a huge 3 or 4 days events in Romania. I spent about a month out of the whole 12 months. I spent about a month in Europe and international travels, which is about what I should be spending based on the amount of business that is bringing me. Then the rest of the 11 months I'm spending it in the US and obviously in the factories and whatnot. But it is the presence that they have seen you. It is the fact that one guy, it took this one guy, I swear to God, I approached him in 2016, 2017, which is an international distributor for Joya de Nicaragua in Italy. I was like, guys, this makes all the sense in the world. Why are we not doing this together? Why are we not working together? And I was able to
look at the name of my company.
Yeah, like come on, guys, let's break this apart. Let's do something fun. And now we just landed the Italian market after 6.5 years. 6.5 years. Now we officially got our order into that market.
Yeah, I saw that awesome picture. Coop was just in Italy for a family vacation too, and then I saw that picture of you I guess you were in the Vatican City smoking a cigar. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. So, we'll talk a little bit more about Italy and Spain here in just a little bit because I know you really like both and everything. But just to go back to the last 10 years a little bit here, let's go back to the celebration of it. So the cigar that I'm smoking right now, the Lunar Cameroon. What an amazing project this was.
Yeah.
And what an amazing feat you get to brag about, man. Fratello Cigars was on the moon. I mean, obviously we know why you were in a position to do that. You had a great you had a great relationship with your former employer.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, how is that not one of the cool? How is that not one of the coolest things ever?
Pretty damn fucking cool. Pretty damn sorry about part of my language, but it's pretty damn cool. I loved it. I loved everything about that project. I loved everything about the launch. It humbles you. I don't know how many companies can say this, but the fact that the Fratello logo is going to be in the moon for the next 2.2 billion years, to me is something definitely to brag about. It's something that I filled my head with it. I honestly, it's when you're talking about something that I always also make fun of it. Like if there's any time that the moon is ever going to get populated by anything or anybody, Fratello will be the first and the most important sell cigar to the entire alien kind for
Yeah.
sure. Right. So we're definitely making that. But also the fact that you created something that now sits on the surface of the moon. How
Mm-hmm.
many companies can you honestly say have actually, have some sort of legacy representation of anything of any kind that
Yeah.
is currently now sitting on the moon? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool. I'm humbled by it for sure.
Well,
I'm
I
glad
mean,
you brought that up.
yeah, no, of course. Like, well, when you think about like what's on the surface of the moon, of course, you have the American flag and the plaques from the Apollo missions and stuff that are listed there, and then now with this latest project and everything, like you said, Fratello is on this. Okay, it's not like they were NASCARing this thing out. They weren't like asking for corporate sponsorships and everything. So,
Mm.
so again, I mentioned, I said obviously this was because of your relationship, but like, how did this conversation come up? Like, hey, can I just like you're not the type of guy that says, "Hey, can I slap my sticker on this thing?" Like, what's like how does this conversation even start to where
Oh my god,
ultimately your name is on your name's on the face of the moon?
yeah, that started with, I mean, I even remember when I got that phone call too. It was about 3 years ago. I got a call from a buddy of mine that I already knew that he had left NASA, and he had started a company that is now actually in the New York Stock Exchange. Is LUNR, is Intuitive Machines. So when Steve Altemus hit me up and said, "Hey, like, I remember you left NASA to do this with cigars. I just earned the next 3 lunar lander contracts for NASA for the lunar payloads, and I would like to have something to celebrate with my people whenever we are, on the surface of the moon. We would like to smoke cigars." He's a big time cigar smoker, big time Fratello cigar smoker. He's out of Houston, Texas, so we got a huge presence between Specs and Stogies and all these amazing lounges that do so much growth and so much business with Fratello, that he was like, "Do you mind if we do something special for these guys?" And I was like, I knew money wasn't an object for him, and for me, it wasn't either. I mean, for me, it was more of a, you know, doing something special for him, and I created obviously what ended up being, this beautiful capsule right here. I'm hoping I'm not. There you go. You can see a little bit.
There
But
you
I
go.
created this capsule so that I can, I sent it to him. I sent it to him as a humidor, where I first created it, and then afterwards, after I saw how amazing it was, I approached him. I was like, "Do you mind if I actually launch this as a brand? Because I think it's incredibly cool. It applies everything to my brand." But I had created the product for him. He was so grateful to the fact that I went above and beyond. I put my resources on my company. I went to China, back and forth, spent thousands of dollars, and yes, I hate it. No, I don't like it. Yes, I love it. No, I hate it. Between back and forward, no, fix the leg. No, this is a fifth leg. It should have 6 legs. No, the humidor should open up like this. It should close like that. And then the same thing, spending it with the cigars. I wanted to make a cigar that was spectacular for him. And that's when we ended up coming out with that Salomon, which is a super limited edition cigar that we launched out of the Dominican Republic. And I put all of the pieces together. I want an exceptional cigar, something that lasts, and that, as you can tell from the Lunar Cameroon, that had a very long finish. That was my goal. I wanted a long finish cigar, something that lingers in your palate, makes it salivate just the right way, has a little bit of saltiness, a little bit of sweetness. Just, I wanted to make like the perfect cigar for this mission. This mission was all about longevity. It's all about the time frame, and I wanted to create something that created that space aspect of it. And so 3 years later, obviously February of 2025, the Nova C capsule, on board the Saturn V rocket, just goes up and gets us up on in the surface of the moon. And it was humbling to see. He told me, "Omar, I'm really so grateful for the fact that you developed this for us. I mean, again, this was something that he was going to be like, pay for the cigars and all that stuff, and I ended up saying no, just this is for you. This was just a fun project.
Yeah, what a special
And
thanks to. Yeah, that's
yeah,
cool.
and he loved it so much. It was like, do you mind if I put the logo, your logo, the Fratello logo on the actual capsule is going to land on the moon? And I was like, do I mind? Like
Yeah,
I couldn't even speak. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I did this for him as a friend, and then I developed it as a brand because I loved it so much, and I wanted to people to try it and enjoy it. But I wasn't expecting anything in return. And when he said
yeah,
that, I was like, I almost passed out. So that was way more than I had bargained for. And obviously, the companies are mirrored in that spacecraft. Um, are multi-billion-dollar companies. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
educational facilities and stuff like that. So they didn't need. As a matter of fact, Fratello as a tobacco brand, it wouldn't be very well seen when it comes to like human space exploration, and really isn't well seen in anything because we are tobacco. But it was the connection. It was
mm,
the I don't care what anybody says or what anybody thinks. You were pivotal in bringing something that can bring joy to me, my team, and everybody else around us. We're putting it on. So I thank Steve a lot for also braving through that, because of course there were questions that were asked about like, hey, do you think it's a good idea to have like a tobacco brand, slapped onto the actual Nova C capsule? It costs hundreds of millions of dollars, and he stuck with it, and I am grateful for it as well.
yeah. I mean, what a nice, beautiful full circle story too. And if eh, from your days at NASA to cigar, brands and brand owner and manufacturer to coming back to that part. So it's kind of almost like a back to your genesis in a real legacy type way. Like you said, that's going to be up there for
100%.
lifetimes. So the um I mean, are there any plans or have there been any discussions for any future projects
Yeah. Yeah, we're
involving?
in the process right now of having those conversations. I mean, it just takes so long, man. And for people like me that like I want it now, I want it good. I want this yesterday. It's terrible. But it's also so good when it comes together after 3 years. Like, Bear, I can't tell you, man. When I saw that rocket go up, man, and I was like, full of emotions.
It's different, right? It's not like that was the
It's
first launch you've ever seen, but it's different.
No, man. It was very personal at that time. I was there with my then director of operations, who also loves this the cigar industry and the connection that we have with space, because we both love it. So living that with her as well was very, very special for me. But I'm not gonna lie, man. That 3 years for me, I just wanted it to be in like 1 month. Sometimes I had to just go back and remember that this isn't about a sprint. It's a long game for me, man. This is a long game. I heard Lito say that one time. It's like, slow and steady wins the race. And, I'm not looking for that, huge spike in everything. I want my brand to just continually, consistently be just growing, which is what we have been doing. So I'm blessed by that.
That's awesome. What where do you think has been the hardest lesson that you've learned in 10 years? Was it that you couldn't do this on your own? That you still struggle with
100%.
that? Is it something else that I'm
It's I have a great team behind me, man. I have an excellent team, and I've had it for years. I have a great marketing department. I have a great visuals and social media and digital marketing department. I got a great customer service department where we connecting with our retailers, and I have a phenomenal VP of marketing and operations. I have a new global operations manager and sales. I have an amazing team, man, and I'm not gonna lie, the hardest part in this last 10 years has been to not only acknowledge the fact that yeah, I could probably get this job done in like 20 minutes if I sit down and do it myself, which will take me a few days just so that I can go through all the other tasks that I have and then do it. But to just let go of some of the reins of allowing other people to just make those mistakes and go through that process themselves to help our brand scale. So building my team has definitely been one of the hardest things, in terms of giving them all of the tools that they need so that they can be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an industry that we unfortunately do not have the trying to find the right words for some of these things, because the reality is this industry has so much turnover on every aspect of everything dealing with the entire industry, except when it comes to the farming and the development of the cigars themselves at the factories.
Yeah.
Where it comes to the amount of just I think it's terrible, the terrible turnover that we have on employees when it comes to, let's talk about the commercial aspect of it, when it comes to selling, when it comes to brick and mortars, with losing their employees and one guy that they train and then getting another back in, and the aspect of retail that is daunting. It's a
Yeah.
lot. And so um I've come to realize that we are not in an industry like roofing, where you can have somebody on the road in one zip code and may not make a single dime on as a salary employee, but can make hundreds of thousands of dollars by commission work, because he can go out and sell some roofs, and one roof he gets 10-15% commission. If he sells 5 roofs, he's already making $5,000-6,000 a month, just by selling one every week. So that's not the industry that we're in. And that is the incredibly tough part about this industry. And that's why you see all of these brands like Dumbarton and Melillo and Roma, and all of these different brands that they could probably afford to bring somebody on the road in their specific areas, just like we can as well, and put somebody boots on the ground in Texas to cover Oklahoma and this and that. But they can't do it. Nobody can do it until you reach a specific certain level of volume in a territory that can sustain something like that. So this industry still goes through so many stages of actually having to depend so much and so much of their capital on spending money for a specific person in a territory that they're never going to see a return in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Just because it takes so long to be able to build some of these areas. Even brands like Plasencia, even that are brands that are putting an enormous amount of money, that are putting an enormous amount of resources out there by hiring people like Jim Young and my boy Javi that's doing an amazing job, and all these different things. They're also going through the exact same situations that we as small brands are. I mean, once you reach a certain level, like Fuente, Ashton, Padron, which he doesn't even have this kind of like level of volume, because very much, you know, uh, they have a different point of view on this whole thing. But even these brands, you know, having, it took them years to get to this point. I
Right.
mean, Drew Estate in the state of Texas until what, 7 years ago or years ago, they were still using brokers in the
They're
state
still
of
using
Texas.
brokers. Yeah.
So you tell me if this doesn't tell you the industry that we are in. And so it isn't so much about the fact that you can have a brand say, hey, I'm going to go into this market, I'm going to hire this person, that person. There are brands that are losing money left and right because of this, because they have different goals and different approaches and different funding mechanisms that want to take their brand to that level. But if you do it from the ground up, if you're doing it from visiting that brick and mortar, connecting with that brick and mortar, that brick and mortar knows who's the jockey behind that brand, and then giving somebody else the opportunity to sell that brand at their store and then grow it to the level that we are. It takes 10 plus years. That's just the reality.
Yeah, it's
It's
a
just the
huge
bottom line reality.
it's a huge undertaking, and like we've seen a lot of, like just in 10 years, Omar, like you've seen, I've seen some of your struggles, and I've seen some of your um your challenges that you've overcome and everything. I can equate it to this, and this is a really great way of seeing it from this perspective. So like when I started, again, this podcast will be turning 7 in November, right? So when I've in the 7 years, and I've had you on, I think this is our third or fourth time. I'd have to check, but
Yeah.
When I first asked you to become a guest, I reached out to you directly, and because you're so busy, we booked it out for months, right?
Yeah.
So we booked it out for months. So that, again, that was Omar then, right? Then the next time I had you on, I actually had to go through someone because you had delegated your calendar and your schedule to somebody else, right? And so there's that stage, right? And then this time around, it was just like me reaching out to you via text, just like, hey man, do you happen to have this date available? And you're like, yeah, I could totally do it, because you've been able to delegate so much that where, and coincidentally
100%.
enough, we just had a free weekend, but it's really cool to kind of, in that microcosm of a very small detail of just booking you on a show, seeing the stages that your business and that you've taken, and the challenges that you've overcome with it. You mentioned a new VP of marketing. Is that Jennifer, right?
Yep, Jennifer True. She came from Altares. She was the director of marketing and product development with them. She was the mastermind behind so many of the great stuff that they've done in the last few years, and so that's another massive move for Fratello as well.
What a coup for you, man! I mean, I told you
Yeah,
this in the
man.
show. I mean, the best thing. I mean, with all respect to your team who's been with you for years, man. I mean, that is one incredible hire. I mean, she's
100%.
brilliant. She is absolutely brilliant. I've had her on a guest as the
100%.
show. She's done such incredible things. And what are some things that you're looking for her to do as Fratello enters in this next phase of the next 10 years kind of thing?
Listen, again, this is the part that I think I don't even know how many people in business are paying attention to this. Again, we're talking about longevity, right? I mean, this isn't about just launching a few brands and having some fun and selling it here and there. If you want to build a legacy, if you want to build a brand, it takes 15, 20 plus years, right? I mean, that's just the bottom line reality. She has come into Fratello with an incredibly fresh perspective that has allowed me to have the ability to text you back and say, I got this Sunday available.
Yeah.
Honestly, that I could not have described that any better, Bear, because sure, I was working right now and a whole bunch of other things, but the things that I'm working on right now are not necessarily the things that I was working on a year and a half ago. Let alone 6 months ago. I'm not gonna lie. Since she's been on board, she's taken off so many of the true organizational aspects of running a business, right? I mean, I can focus more on the tobacco. I can focus more on, on my factory relations. I can focus more on, long-term plans. I can focus more on the vision of the company and the mission. I can focus more on allocating the resources where we need to allocate them the right way. And she can focus on, doing everything else, kind of like in the right way. I'll give you a perfect example of this. This happened about 2 weeks ago or so. And, if Jennifer's watching this, she's going to love this. I sent an email to the factory on a Saturday afternoon after I had already decided about one specific blend that I've been working on for over a year plus. And I was like, hey guys, this is it. I'm convinced. I went back to like a different Vitola, but I'm very anal about this. And Manuel and Mario Perez and Juan Ignacio Martinez at Joya, Nicaragua, they definitely know it way too much. I am very anal about everything that I do. I want to make sure that everything is done the right way, that we are pushing, and that I feel pride with the work that we are doing. And so I hit them up and I said, we're going to order, 15,000 of this particular SKU, this particular Vitola. We're just going to go with it. It's going to be a limited edition where I love it. And then I got a reply back immediately from Jennifer saying the exact same thing that I just said to the entire team on one email with 3 paragraphs that usually they would take and say, yeah, let's go ahead and run. And Omar sent an email. This is 15,000 cigars, and this is how we're going to go rule through it, right? Now we actually have, and this is the part that I love so much, we actually now have like a new product item development where we have specific areas and the things that need to be clear about this particular product so that there are no problems with the production, right? Like, small little things like just make sure that this one doesn't go with cello, but this one is going to be, and this is the direction that it's going to go. This is the way that it should be displayed in the box, and this is the end up product. The detail of having this being vertically, where you can see it on a single sheet of paper that is easy for the factory to see, easy for us to track, easy for us to upload into our existing systems, and doing it over like 15, 20 minutes, it's perfect. But that 15, 20 minutes that for having this organization took us months just so that we can drive back the culture of our company into being more organized and doing these things. I'll give you another perfect example. Again, going back to this past year and a half of we are constantly evolving as a different company so that we can focus on what we love the most, which is to bring our consumers the best available products that we have, not grabbing the cigars. So I always say, throw them up in the air and say, oh, this one's stuck, let's go with this. But having a system for it that we know doesn't need to cannibalize our own brands, and that is always thinking about the end goal of our brand, is that to have those government procedures and to have those select SOPs and starting operating procedures in place, so that when somebody does come on board, instead of me having to spend a month and a half or 2 months, or having to have this person fly to the Dominican Republic or fly them over here and spend thousands and thousands of dollars, now we have a binder and say, hey, here you go. This is what your job says. This is what we need to do.
Yeah.
This is what Fratello is, and go forth and do great things.
Nice.
That is hard to do, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. That's been the hardest part.
Yeah, it's just it's the little things that kind of get lost in the minutia and everything. So we're gonna come back and talk a little bit more about some of the recent items of Fratello here in a second. But we're gonna move on to a couple of our fun segments, and of course this one's one of our fan favorites. Obviously, this is the presidential trivia segment, which is always brought to you by our good friends at United Cigar, featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, which we've seen in a Fratello, and the highly acclaimed Atabey and Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living United. Really quick, Omar, because before we do the question though, when you did the Firecracker, because I know you've done a couple of variations, like you did the H-Town Lancero for Stogies, obviously, and then when Dave and everyone approached you to do a Firecracker, which is like one of the iconic limited edition single store exclusives and stuff. Like, what was, I mean, how exciting was that for you to just?
I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was. I'll tell you where the excitement was. Honestly, was when I was at the factory and I had already received the firecrackers and we were going through them, and I saw this little pigtail thing and I was like, "This Dave Garofalo or something else, man. I love it." But Steve Saka was there at the same time when I had received, as I was receiving these things, and he was already on board with the industry for a few years. And I can't remember what year was it. 2017 that I launched the Firecracker. I think he came into the industry 2015 or 16 or something like that. But I remember this so well because he was like, "Whoa, what you got there?" And I'm like, "Wouldn't you like to know, huh, buddy? Wouldn't you like to know?" And then he was like, "Oh, I know what this is," because he's from New Hampshire, obviously. And he was like, "You're doing something with Dave. That's good." And so, no, that was a fun project, just like it was to do the Stogies Lancero. I think to this day, honestly, this is just my personal opinion, but obviously I'm going to be a little biased. I think I still have the best firecracker, and we only made a very, 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 very small production. Like the firecracker at that time wasn't the firecracker at this time. The firecracker at that time was, hey, Omar, here's a couple hundred boxes. Can you ship this and see how it goes? That was it.
Well, right, and it was like a very select people had only been selected to do it, and like it was a very. And look, the fraternity of firecrackers is still very small, but they're expanding it. But that's pretty cool that you were one of those foundational pieces that made it like this phenomenon, so to speak. Now that's growing for them.
Can I jump into that one as well, because I want to kind of that is a perfect example or a perfect relationship-based question on how does a brand like Fratello in 2017, 2016, when we were approached into doing this, there was only 3 brands, I think it was. I think I'm not sure if it was like La Flor did one. I mean, I didn't think that Tuaje, like my father definitely did one. And there was a couple more, but it wasn't more.
Was Roma Craft after you or before you?
I think it was after us.
And Christoph was after you too, right?
And Christoph was after us as well.
Yeah.
So Christoph for sure was after us. I'm pretty certain Roma Craft was after us as well. I think again, like I said, it was only like La Flor Dominicana, I think, had something as well, but very, very, very small. And when we got approached with it, it wasn't anything else than relationship. You can choose anybody to do this kind of stuff. Like the same thing with Stogies, they can choose anybody to do this or support with anybody. But the difference, and what makes a big difference in this case, was the fact that somebody like Dave, who I admire a lot for his trajectory in this industry and everything else that he has done, says, why don't we take a chance on Fratello? And it's the exact same thing that has been happening for years. Why is Fratello one of the very few cigar companies that make up some of the largest humidors in the US? I mean, why is Fratello one of the cigars that's part of the smoker friendly family in not only like 5 of their stores, but 380 of their stores? Why is Fratello still being introduced and pushed, and we have an incredible relationship with ABC in Florida, where we're making private brands, and they're continuing to support us with our premium brands. This is the number 1 account for every company in the Florida market is ABC. And so why does Fratello have that kind of presence? Why does Fratello enjoy the presence of 95 stores with specs in all of Texas, and continuous growth, where I have companies calling me, hey, how do I get in? How do I do this? The reason this happens is because of that relationship and the trust that these companies have on a company like Fratello. That's it. It's the fact that they know that based on the conversations that I'm having with them, I'll be damned if something's not going to be done to the exact specs of what we wanted to do with all these companies. I'll take it a step further. I'll even show you something very unique, since we are in this process of the firecracker. So this is I know I'm gonna move around, and I hope it doesn't kill the signal, but I am gonna show you something pretty crazy to show you specifically what, and I just came into my humidor, by the way, but this is kind of like, I'm not sure if you can see it or not, because
just got your face right now with that virtual background, so
my bad. Let me take off the virtual background, because I want to show you exactly what I am talking about, so that you can have a better idea of why we came about to do this. So let me take off the background. Give me 1 second. Here we go. We got a little bit of a better image. And I think no one else, by the way, ever has seen this. Even the only person I actually saw this was, oops, sorry about that. Put this out. Here we go. You see me?
Mm-hmm.
So get this part. So it isn't just when a retailer or a chain some of the chains that I'm talking to you about take their chance on a company. It goes way past the cigars. So like I said earlier, they're expecting the time that they smoke the cigars, they already know that the product is good. They already know that I work with the 2 oldest cigar factories in the world, with Joya in Nicaragua and La Aurora, outside of anything from Cuba, obviously. But they already know the quality of what we have. They already know the product is good. They already know the sourcing that we have is solid. At the end of the day, after that is they're taking a chance on the company itself. So when Dave approached us about doing this and we were having this conversation, I was like, why don't we do a firecracker for you and see how it goes? I prepared a product initially that I wanted to surprise him on, right? And when I sent him what this looked like, I had created the firecracker in a bundle, but I had created this bundle in such a unique way that nobody else had ever done. But I did it just to see if I could enhance, give Dave at this point something way better than what he was expecting from everybody else and just connect. So I did this.
Oh, that's cool.
This is the Fratello Firecracker in its original format. It was done in a bundle. We call it a Firecracker by Fratello. We put like a little caution on the top. It took us a very, very long time just to get the actual line where we wanted it. It took us a while to do obviously making sure that the product was well seen and everything. I loved it because I thought it was like, it's kind of like dynamite. This is fire. This is exactly what we need. And I sent it to Dave and the team and beyond excited, thinking this is going to be fantastic. But I had sent it to him with about 3 or 4 months in advance of when we had the launch date, which was July. I had sent it to him like in March timeframe or so. Final product, here's what it looks like. I just wanted to get your blessing. And he hated it. It was like, what? Like, what are you doing, man? Like, I don't want anything on a bundle. Like, people on bundle, and this is his point of view on this. It's like, I don't want anything on a bundle. People think they're buying a bundle cigar and it kind of depreciates the value, although the cigar was going to be sold for $6.99 anyway. So it wasn't about the product itself. It was just the fact that he was used to getting it in boxes. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, that was I was trying to do more. The easiest thing for me would have been just to produce a couple of boxes and not launch it because we were only talking about 200 boxes or so. Right. But I took it such a step beyond. But at the moment when I saw him unhappy, I was like, all right, got the factory immediately. He was like, I don't think we're going to be able to pull this out this year. Maybe we do it next year. He was telling me all of these different things, like I really wish you would have, talked to me about this. But what I didn't know is that, again, for me, it's about how do I make sure that I do more for my customers and not less. I called the factory, the box factory that we're doing is like, get the cigars in this box. This is what I want. Put the logo, stuff like that. The product were already done, by the way, and the products were on our way to the U.S. at this point, all packed like this, okay? I spent an entire weekend with my entire family. This part Dave doesn't know. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a part of Monday with my son and my daughter opening up, and my ex-wife at the time, one bundle at a time and placing them single-handedly, box by box, until we were done. Bro, when I am telling you that after that whole thing, I had to take his kids down to Disney. This was the most expensive product I had ever done with amount of time and everything in the history of Fratello.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. I even put in the first production because I saved about 5 or 6 of these behind because I thought it was fantastic and that nobody else had done it. But that's how much I take what I do seriously, and why so many companies, even the Dubai Duty Free, like why would I be the only brand in the last 2 years to be the only brand to make it inside the Dubai Duty Free when there's only like 16 brands that they have as a whole, when they have 7 humidors in it? It's because there is a trust factor that they know that I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm gonna elevate my brand at every single step that I can. And so that was definitely one of those. I've never shown that to anybody, never share with anybody, but I figured it made a lot of sense in this conversation.
Nice. Oh man. Well, like we said, Fratello's come a long way in 10 years. You're not boxing stuff by hand anymore. So that's good. That's good. What a great story. So let's go ahead and get to the presidential trivia segment of it, which is under. So, I was thinking about this just because, with your recent visit to the U.S. Capitol back in May, where you took the lunar humidor and everything, and you talked to some, you were hanging out with some of your old buddies in Congress, and I know you were talking about not just cigars, but also the space program and things like that too. So I imagine you were a huge part of that, which was great. But I thought let's tie this into I wanted to get back to the ability to smoke, right? And this is a question that man, I should have put it out a long time ago in this segment, but this is the first time it's come up. So, under which presidential administration was smoking actually banned in the White House? So, under which presidential administration was smoking banned in the White House? So, this is multiple choice, don't worry. So, was it A, George Herbert Walker Bush, B, Jimmy Carter, C, Barack Obama, D, Bill Clinton, or E, George W. Bush?
So in the grounds of inside, like inside or in the grounds?
Inside the White House. Yeah.
Banned inside the White House. My God. The only reason I want to say it was probably Barack Obama is because of what happened with Nancy Pelosi during the administration, as well as when she got rid of the cigar smoking lounge that was at the Capitol as well.
Right.
But that's the only reason I would be inclined into saying that. What is the answer?
So it was actually during Bill Clinton's administration. So yeah, so Bill, and it was actually another infamous female Democrat. It was his wife. So when they went into the White House and moved into the White House during his inauguration, there were still, smoking was still allowed in the White House, and in fact, they still had ashtrays all over the place. So one of the first things she did was take up all the ashtrays, so the ashtrays were all gone. So smoking didn't become banned in the White House until 1997. So this was actually during his second term. But during the first term, she took up all the ashtrays, and at that point, smoking was more of a very select time and place. It wasn't as frequent daily use and stuff like that. So, but smoking started to depreciate in the White House after Jimmy Carter. Ronald Reagan didn't have a lot of smoking in the White House, but he was actually encouraged by his Surgeon General to ban smoking, and he didn't want to offend like foreign heads of state and stuff, that people that did want to smoke, because he wasn't a very big smoker actually at the time.
Yeah.
He was in his youth, but not in his latter years, like when he was president. And so he rebuffed the Surgeon General's request to ban smoking in the White House by saying he didn't want to offend visitors if they chose to smoke. Which I was like, man, what a day. This was 40 years ago, and now fast forward today. I mean, the idea of smoking inside anywhere is such a foreign concept. But I'm surprised it was so recent. Like I honestly thought it was actually sooner, like maybe even before. But then I thought about how Gerald Ford was an infamous pipe smoker and things like that, and Bill Clinton was a cigar smoker himself, still is.
Yeah, still is to this day. Not only that, but I agree. I would have never thought it would have been done. I knew it had to be recent, because there's still a big community of there's this big cigar smoking community around the DC area when it comes to power players. I mean, we still have there's a new club coming up into DC in next year, that's all private club. There's one in Alexandria, it's all private clubs called Club Rex. There's all these different smaller places that people can go in, still enjoy a cigar. I mean, and even in Congress, we were still, we had a place where we could have the smoking lounge until Pelosi got rid of it. But, I figured it had to be in the last 20 some years,
It was surprising to see that it was our boy Bill Clinton.
Yeah,
that's the guy that a lot of people, when they say, "Hey Omar, who would be that kind of guy that you would like to smoke, dead or alive?" I say Bill Clinton, man. I just want to pick his brain. What was on your mind, buddy? When you did some of these things, what was on your mind? Let's have that conversation.
Well, it's one of those, and this is actually one of those things that I find very curious about politics, about how politically, like, some of our leaders will choose things that are in direct contrast to their own personal preferences. Bill Clinton banned smoking in the White House, even though he's still a cigar smoker to this day.
Yeah.
Barack Obama was a 2-pack a day smoker, and he put in place a lot of anti-smoking legislation and stuff. And then it's under his administration, the very tail end of his administration, that the daunting FDA regulations came out. So, like, it's really interesting to me, without getting into politics, but it's really interesting to me how, and this, we're narrowing the scope to just smoking, but I mean, pick an issue, pick anything, and it's interesting to see how politicians have done things that are in direct contrast to their own personal beliefs, tastes, whatever, and it's just always interested me. So so good stuff there. All right, well, that was our president.
That's very good.
Yeah, we went into some firecracker history there with our presidential trivia segment, which was great. Remember, it's always the segment's always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana and distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, the Garofalo, and of course the Firecracker and the highly acclaimed Atabey, Byron, and Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. This is one of our next segment. Is one of our newer segments, which is brought to you by Artista Cigars, which is truly the last hidden gem of the Dominican Republic. With nearly 70 years rolling cigars, the family behind Artista believes in honoring their long-term traditions of handmade artistry. Artista's blends include factory-exclusive tobaccos and front marks for every budget. In fact, Artista Cigars has one of the most varied portfolios on the market today. There's something for everyone at Artista Cigars. Now, if you're like me and never really can decide, Artista Cigars is a breath of fresh air, because I can take something from any box of Artista and I know I'm getting something pretty special. So Omar, this segment is actually a rapid fire this or that. So I'm going to go through a list of things. Some are cigar related, some are random. I'm going to give you a choice between two things, and you tell me what are those two things. Which one you prefer over those two things. So here we go. So let's start easy. Let's start with cigars. Let's talk about cutting a cigar. V-cut or guillotine?
We say guillotine. You're talking about like a straight cut?
Straight cut, yeah.
Yep, straight cut all day long.
Do you use a cutter, or do you like most manufacturers use your?
Whenever I have it, I use it. Whenever I don't, I don't.
It's the old thumbnail trick or whatever.
Like today, like I was like about to light out the naveta outside, and I didn't have the cutter with me, so it goes right out immediately.
Nice. Okay. To your own brand, Vitola. So you know that the Boxer is my favorite Vitola that you've made. So, but I've never actually flipped the question on you. So on you, do you prefer a Boxer or a Toro?
I'm 100% a Boxer guy for sure.
Okay.
100% a Boxer guy, and you can tell on the releases that we've done in years after, like with the Arlequin. That Arlequin Corona Gorda, oh my God! To this day, I think it's just, I know I haven't done a great effort yet in introducing and having people smoke the Arlequin Corona on that Vitola at a 48 ring gauge, just because the cigar is just outstanding. I think people will absolutely love it, but I'm definitely a Boxer kind of guy for sure.
Yeah, I've got the Corona right here. I was gonna smoke that probably. This is the last cigar of the evening.
Dude, smoke that later. I am telling you right now, it is absolute. Just send me a text message.
It's the best. It's the best Vitola out of that line. 100%. I love that. I love that Vitola. It's fantastic. I love that Vitola for that blend. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So going back to international travels, do you prefer Spain or Italy?
Spain all day long.
Okay. I know you've got.
Don't hold that against me, Italian Cigar Company. I love you guys too, but Love Spain.
What is it? What are your favorite things about Spain?
Man, it's the food, and it's the variety of food. I don't get tired of eating the food. Like I go to Italy, and after XYZ amount of time, I cannot put another pasta in my body to save my life. I cannot.
You're carved out.
I'm carved out. But with Spain, man, I mean, you can go to specific regions and have something like a lechazo, which is like a baby goat in the middle of the Cervantes region in Spain, and it's the most delicious, baby goat you will ever have in your entire life. It's just incredible. But then at the same time, you can go for pinchos in the northern part of Spain, in San Sebastian and Bilbao, and enjoy some of the best seafood in your entire life. And then you go to the Sevilla and you just enjoy some of the great paellas that they have, and it's just such a variety of foods. And then at the same time, they also have like the fact that they speak Spanish. Obviously, it's important, but it's not it. It's the fact that they have the culture of where the Dominican Republic and all of these different countries in the American continent come from. Obviously, come from those conquistadores and the Spanish government opening up, so much. And so a lot of our roots also come from Spain. And so there is a bigger connecting factor to it. But man, just the food alone, man, this is fantastic. And you can do anything in Madrid. Come on, let's be honest. Madrid is incredible. Coop, next travel, I want to see you, buddy, all over. I want to see you in Spain.
I think Coop would really like Spain. I think Coop would really like Spain. I was thinking about this the other day when we were talking about his Italian travels. I think he would really enjoy an 100%. Extensive trip to Spain. So to that point about food, though, I was thinking about this, and because like one of the classic this or that questions is like, do you prefer being hot or do you prefer being cold? And I was actually listening to a recent interview of yours where you're talking about like we're both big dudes, but like I hate being hot. I just absolutely hate it. But to food, do you prefer hot food or cold food?
100% hot food, bro. Let me explain this part to you, bro. Anytime I hear like, hey man, I have a great cold brew here, please don't ever insult me ever again. Hey Omar, you should really come to this sandwich place, man. They make this fantastic, really, really nice cold cuts. Cold what? Immediately, it's just like I become dumb. I say, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
It's a non-starter.
This is a non-starter. Okay, so food, people, please, food should always be hot. Okay, coffee should always be hot. Okay, a sandwich on coffee should always be hot. People, come on, like a panini, nice little crusty with a little inside, just like spongy enough so that it can make all that beautiful melted cheese and everything else you want to put inside of it. Just keep it right there and have the cheese be the compacting factor of this amazing sandwich. You're gonna choose a cold cut sandwich? No. I don't want to even have this conversation. This is I'm sorry. I just like you may love it, Bear, but this is a conversation we're not gonna have over dinner. We're gonna have a conversation, after.
Always hot food. I'm with you on coffee 1,000%. And I get that argument all the time. Like, well, what do you do in the summertime? I'm like, I drink hot coffee. Like that's what I do. And I'm like, listen, hot coffee is the ultimate for both weathers, because in hot weather, when you drink hot coffee, it cools your body temperature down. Mm-hmm. And when it's cold outside, nothing feels better than having a cup of warm coffee. It's perfect for both seasons. You don't need iced coffee. It should not exist. I'm sorry.
100%.
1,000%. So, all right. So we've talked about your travels, but let's talk about your home. So you hail from the Dominican, but you've called the DMV your home for a number of years now. So which is it, the DR or DMV?
Man, I should add the DRMV to the whole situation, because one saw me grew into the kind of prospect, or into the kind of person that was able to foster and grow into such a competitive environment like Washington, D.C., and getting into NASA and advancing through the ranks at NASA. It was that time in the Dominican Republic and in Puerto Rico and in the U.S. by studying over 8+ years, just give me the opportunity to just get to that situation, get to that point. So the DR will always be home. And then this is my second home. This is the DC, Maryland, and Virginia market is what I've called home for the last 20 years, that I've seen my career blossom, that I've seen my business, that I've seen my children grow up. And so for me, both are very, very special.
Awesome. So one of the things I've always liked about you, Omar, is you're a model of consistency. We talked about your branding, but also like at trade shows, like you're always one of the classier individuals on the trade show floor. You're always in a suit. It's always a staple at the Fratello booth of Omar's in a suit and everything. But I've also seen you on the casual days. I've seen you rock a nice pair of shorts. So like, do you prefer the more casual look, or do you prefer to get dressed up?
It depends. Like, I'm gonna go to Europe, man, and I gotta sport it. I'm coming in hot and heavy, just because I know the expectations of what we have, and I know how to do it very well. But if you ask me what was I wearing yesterday to go hang out with my daughter in DC and spend some time, just having dinner with some friends or whatever, I went in the day with some Jordans and just some shorts and a t-shirt, and then when I was getting ready to go out at night and go for a nice meal, then I put on my suit, and it was over. So it's a transition of both. I've been very used to both. I went to NASA every single day in a suit for 12 years, and so not afraid to dress up well and send the right message. What's interesting though is trying to send that message to the Gen Zers and my son, who's 14 years old, and say, hey buddy, like you gotta maintain a level of consistency in the way you dress. Don't be going out like my daughter went for a few times because I didn't catch her with like this Crocs and the most horrendous sleeping pajamas I have ever seen in my life. And I thought I had failed as a father. You know what I mean? I always say that if you can keep her off the pole, as Chris Rock said, I mean, then you got something. But I don't think it was that. I already knew I was going to keep her off the pole. At this point, it was just about how can I keep this woman from continuing to bring into school, a headset, the most horrendous, pajamas I have ever seen in my life, which apparently are very comfortable, and that's why they do it. And then this Crocs. So that part hasn't connected in my brain. So for me, I can honestly tell you, bro, it's always been about let's keep it classy when we need to, and let's keep it casual when we need to as well.
Sounds good. All right. So, you did a great series on YouTube with unusual pairings. So when smoking a cigar, do you prefer, always is a relative term, but do you prefer to pair a cigar with something, or do you prefer to have it unpaired?
I always, I'm a pairing guy. I always enjoy to have any of my cigars. If there is a possibility for me to do it, I will always do it with a pairing. I get so much more experiences with it than I do without it, and so I think that's the biggest part. Is for anybody out there, let's just say they're listening to us right now and exploring the ability. You can smoke a cigar and just enjoy it however the hell you want to smoke it, but if you join this experience as you enjoy your meals and as you enjoy everything else in life, you'll see that everything else just gets enhanced tenfold. I mean, from a lot of people talk about, oh well, a nice wine over a meal and stuff like that. Forget about just a nice wine over a meal. Talk about a cocktail and then bring in this particular set of appetizers that will go perfect for this. Enjoy that. Then you go into a meal, you enjoy a particular beer. Let me have a beer before I go into my, and I'm going to enjoy this beer with this particular, crab dip, or, just going for me is never just like, oh, I'm just going to order a bottle of wine and see how it goes. So I want to know what I'm going to be eating and then figure out what my drink is going to be at the exact same time that I am making that decision. So I'm a pairing person, through and through, and everybody else is. That's the bottom line reality. It's not just that I'm a parent guy. It's that you are. Everyone in the United States of America is with their foods. If you're a cigar smoker, think about your food alone. You know what I mean? It's not the same as to eat a burger with just cheese, right? You want to pair that burger with some bacon. You want to pair that burger with the bring in the acidity of the tomato.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a reason why these things exist. It's never just to be able to do them by itself. Now, can we enjoy a patio burger by itself? Of course. But it's a little bit better if you do the whole combination pairing it.
1,000%. I'm a big condiments person on it, like basically everything. So if I can make a sauce with something, I'm always gonna have that as a compliment to any meal, for sure. Exactly. So all right. Well, this is the last question of this segment. So I always gotta make something a little more fun that's a little bit more in depth. So would you choose to never learn how to swim or have a perpetual fear of heights for the rest of your life?
I would probably choose a perpetual fear of heights because I come from an island, buddy. Okay, so if I'm ever having a situation, I'm gonna be in the water. I want to make sure I can get the hell out of it.
Fair enough. I absolutely would choose swimming. I'm like, you know what? I didn't learn how to swim until I was shameful and fun fact. I didn't learn how to swim until I was in my early 20s. And I'm like, you know what? To have a perpetual fear of something for the rest of my life, I think I could give that up, and I could give up swimming for that because I don't have a fear of heights. I really like being high up. I love roller coasters. I love tall buildings and and I've kind of always enjoyed it. But
I was at the Burj Khalifa Bear in about 5 months ago or so in Dubai, and the Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in the world.
Right.
I paid $250, okay, just so that I can go all the way to the highest floor, where they give you a couple of hors d'oeuvres. By the way, not enough. Okay, I mean, and $250 worth of free hors d'oeuvres. So thank you much, Dubai, but that part we need to enhance a little bit. But the view from up there, they allow you, not like in the US, in some areas where you can just, you can see, for those of us that actually went to like the Sears Towers and all these different places that have very high buildings in the US, they don't let you go outside. You don't get to see the outside. I was able to go outside on a patio.
Oh, wow.
And you just poke your head. This is the part that is insane. You poke your head, and I've never had fear of heights in my entire life until I was trying to take a picture, and I see my phone my phone is like wiggling because I don't want my phone to fall down, hit somebody.
No kidding.
Like I'm trying to I can't believe they let me outside, and anybody outside. Just to be out there. And, obviously they got cameras everywhere. Not that anybody would be so stupid, but just looking down was incredible. So being at that level of height and walking around a terrace and just like trying to take a picture was probably the most scared I've ever been in terms of taking a picture outside of anywhere.
There's this video floating around social media. There's this guy who his job is to climb up this very narrow, obviously very steep ladder all the way up to this huge tower. I don't know what kind of tower it is, but he replaces the red light bulb, that blinks at night so airplanes don't hit it. That's his job. He does it 4 times a year, and he gets paid something like $100,000. And I'm like, yeah, I could do that. That sounds good to me. But you look at the video and it's like, I'm not saying it's a breeze. Like I'm not that naive or stupid. Like it's very tall. The guy's got, there's no safety around him, and he takes his safety with him. He's got his straps, he's got his helmet on, and he's got this light bulb, and he ascends. I can't remember how many stories it is. It's pretty fucking tall, but
yeah,
I mean, obviously that's some serious job security that nobody else was like no one to talk about except for this one guy's like, I'll do it, like, and he makes six figures to do this 4
You
times.
can always count on somebody saying, I think I could pull that off. I think this world is full of people that can say, I think that could be done. And then all of a sudden they take advantage and they do it.
Jay Davis is watching. He said 100 grand isn't enough, Bear. Hell no. Jay's out on the change of the light bulb. All right. Let's move back. Before we kind of go and finish our conversation with the rest of our fun segments, I wanted to go back to 10 years of Fratello and we talked about these interesting micro trends that you paid attention to over the years as you kind of developed your brands and everything. But there's this interesting, I would call them stages of Fratello that have kind of happened. At first it was, the release of what has now become the Classico, and it originally it was just the original, and then the Bianco, etc. And then you kind of really went back to your roots, embraced the whole space theme, the Navetta, the Inverso, and then born out of this harkening back to your roots of the of NASA is this space pack, in which we get introduced to the blend we just mentioned a moment ago. We get introduced to the Sorello, and we get introduced to the Arlequin.
Yep.
And this is a different phase of Fratello, and it's still brand consistent in a lot of ways, but it is very different. It's the first it's the first Fratello that doesn't have Fratello on the label. It just has the brand name. And so what was it about that, like this next stage, that you wanted to be the same but different?
This was the Arlequin, the Sorella, now they're New Arlequin, Connecticut. These are part of our Italian collection that we had launched, and it was always in our plan to have launched it. I mean, we wanted to make sure that we have our core line, which is what the Classico, the Bianco, and the Oro are, and we wanted to stay true to ourselves and to those three brands and grow those three brands. And then we have the obviously the NASA inspired exclusives, which is the Navetta, the Inverso, and the Lunar, which is when we, this past year we've gone back to making sure that we can that people really connect with that story and they know that this is what we do. And so the Italian collection was always for me the fun, breakaway part of Fratello, like that breakaway train. I want to try different things. I want to get away from, like, hey, here's the complexity of this, and I just wanted like some great cigars. And under the Italian collection, it was the fun, more extroverted part of Fratello, and that's why you see something like Arlequin being expressions of myself. Like Arlequin is a 16th century character from the Italian opera in Venice, where you have multiple characters, and one of those characters is the Arlequin. And Arlecchino, as is known in Italy, in the Dominican Republic, he came in as a play that was very, very popular, and I loved it growing up. Grew up watching it. I loved the multicolor aspect of it. So for me, that was a personal expression. It was a personal expression of just the fun, extroverted part of me. And bring it alive through characters, right? And so Arlequin was the first one. Then we launched Sorella, which is sister in Italian, and that has taken a different route, and it's going to continue to take a different route because of the way that we had launched that cigar. But the Italian collection is very personal because it's expressions of the blends in the cigars and the things that I personally love. The Arlequin is to me a cigar that I'm not going to tell you about the kind of, this got a complexity, or this has like pencil, or this has like, a cocoa notes from this and that. It's just a good cigar that has, a first, second, and third, stages to it that is just savory. It's a crowd pleaser. And so that is what I wanted the expression of the Italian collection to be. And it's going to continue to grow. We have some really interesting launches for next year under the Italian collection, and that continuous growth. And Jennifer herself does tremendously also in playing and organizing all of these ideas, because I'm like that kind of guy. I'm just like, why don't we do this and why don't we do that? And, all of a sudden we have like 20,000 different ideas rolling from my head of things that we can do and expressions of tobacco, because I also want to express the tobacco with the brand. It isn't just about like, hey, let me launch a brand and see how it goes. Obviously, the tobacco has to be and the cigar has to be the most important part of the whole thing. And it has to express it at the exact same amount of time that it's expressing it on the brand level. Like I couldn't have the Arlequin do what the Naveta did. I couldn't have the Clásico do what the Classic or the Oro do what the Arlequin Connecticut did. And so they're all multiple expressions, but the Italian was more of an expression of myself. The fun, the extroverted part about it just coming through with a cigar.
Well, this is my annual reminder to you that the free idea that I gave you years ago is still on the table. The Anella di Saturno, the Rings of Saturn. You can take that and have fun with that idea, however you want to do it.
Still be there. Might still be there.
I was just going to say, it's a merging of the space and science exploration and the Italian collection. It's perfect.
Exactly.
It's perfect for you. I'm just saying.
Let's bring it together.
We'll leave Jennifer and you to figure out the details, but it's a great idea. I'm just saying. But so Arlequin has this really great line, and like you said, you've got some plans for Sorello as well. But then this year at PCA you released the second line in the Arlequin brand, the Connecticut, which you've already have a Connecticut with the Oro. Why was it important for you to release? Because I know you talked a little bit about this at the show, so I kind of want to bring this to my audience as well, because you're very conscious of brand cannibalization.
Yeah.
And these are very similar, obviously similar blends because they share a wrapper, but they're still very distinct. Yeah. So I wanted you to talk about why was the Connecticut Arlequin released and why is it important to the Fratello portfolio?
The Arlequin Connecticut came into for the fast-paced growth that we've been having under Arlequin. It came in to bring into the consumer what I think was a beautiful expression of a box press cigar, and the consumer cannot get any better than an expression of a box press Connecticut shade other than the Arlequin Connecticut, because of the origin of that cigar itself. I have blended 10 cigars in the process of coming up with the Arlequin Connecticut. I knew it was a brand that was not going to take too much of a center place in terms of cannibalizing the Oro, because the Oro is still one of my top 2 best-selling cigars I have in the U.S. and is going to remain doing so. But the Arlequin Connecticut, as a box press version, I wanted something very straight up, medium body plus as a razor, and that's exactly what we received with this. And I wanted the consumer to experience a little bit of a heavier blend, a little bit of a heavier sensations on their palate that they do with the Oro. The Oro is, I always call it, like the Pinot Noir of Fratello. It's always kind of like a major crowd pleaser. It just goes with anything. You can smoke it in the morning, evening, afternoon. It doesn't matter. It's just that kind of cigar. What I found with the Arlequin, and I knew this was going to happen, the Arlequin Connecticut, is people who are meeting the full body cigar smokers are loving the Arlequin Connecticut. People who are smoking some of Oliva V's and Melanios and this are enjoying the Arlequin Connecticut, which to me is surprising because, again, there are a lot of expressions of box press cigars with Connecticut shade on the market between Airo and a few other brands that have it, but it is such a different cigar. And what made it different, honestly, was the fact that by mistake and by the lack thereof of a mistake, because it really was on purpose, I told the factory I wanted 10 different cigars, and I wanted all 10 different cigars. Amongst those, all in box press format. I wanted 2 or 3 that were already part of a portfolio that the company was working on and I have worked on in the past. This is Joya de Nicaragua. And then I wanted one cigar, but I didn't want to tell me anything about it. This one cigar, that the only thing that was going to change was the exact same Arlequin cigar. I just wanted the wrapper to change. That's it. I just wanted the wrapper to change, and I wanted to use this particular wrapper, this high priming wrapper from Ecuador, Connecticut, and put it on, and don't tell me what it is. Just give me the blends 1 through 10, and I'll just figure it out. And there was 3 cigars that blew my mind, and there was one that was just far ahead of everybody else, and it was the Arlequin Connecticut with that changed wrapper. It was the classic Arlequin, and the only thing that we changed was the wrapper. I could have actually saved myself an enormous amount of trouble, an enormous amount of blending, an enormous amount of time had I just said to the factory, just go ahead and change the wrapper. But I cannot do it like that, if you know what I mean. Like, it's too simplistic. I need to overly complicate myself. But I kind of already knew where this was going because I even had tried it myself, and I was thinking this is amazing. And that is what the Arlequin Connecticut was. It's the exact same Fratello Arlequin, but just with a Connecticut shade. And it is such a different cigar, such a beautiful expression of that blend. And I encourage everybody to give it a try because it is honestly on fire for us at this point.
Well, it's a throwback to like 20 years ago in the cigar business where, like, Perdomo is the company that kind of perfected it, right? They have a blend and they do it in 3 wrappers, right? They do a Connecticut, right. They do a Sun-Grown, and they do a Maduro. That's been their, they do it probably.
I didn't even know that. That's good to know.
Yeah, they do it better than anybody else probably. But that was the status quo, at the early 2000s. When new brands were emerging on the market, for the most part, you saw that. You saw a natural and a Maduro, and the only difference was the wrapper. The blend was the same. So this is kind of a throwback to that, and it's great to have those complex differences, right? Like, there's a very distinct difference. Bianco is considerably different than Classico. Like, it's great to have those choices and those different blends, and they've made the cigar market incredible. For what it is, but this is a really nice throwback to those good old days, quote unquote, of what, if you've got a great blend, sometimes the right wrapper, just the right couple of wrappers can elevate it and make it something different. So that's really cool.
And look, Perdomo is a perfect brand that I always refer to in terms of like kind of like the ideal situation for a lot of companies to be in. You know what I mean? It's like developing, starting the brand and buying the fields and then getting the box factory and all these different things. But again, people talk to us like, oh my God, I love a Perdomo. They don't know this thing's been around for 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years, right? And so you look at these things and it's not, I admire the companies that have been able to transcend not only that 5-year mark, because once you surpass 5 years, that's a big thing, but there's to process the 10 and then the 15 and the 20 and the 25. And having that consistency, bringing the customer. So I respect them a lot, and I appreciate what you told me about this, because I had no idea this is a good. This is interesting.
Well, in 30 years ago when he started, he was doing it in his garage. So I mean, in 20 years, we can have that. You and I can sit back on a podcast and, hey, remember that one time that you took all those cigars out of bundles and hand placed them yourself into boxes? But it's stories like that. I mean, this isn't an easy business to get into. And a lot of times there's a lot more, there's a lot more to it. And we emphasize this time and time again. And I hear this from virtually everyone that gets on this podcast. The business is more than just what it appears to be. Like, everyone thinks, oh, it'll be a great job to be a cigar rep, or it'll be a great job to have a cigar brand. It's so easy. All you have to do is go talk to people and smoke cigars all day. It's like, man, you're totally missing
it. Clue. They have no clue. I see it every day, and I can see the writing on the wall when as we interview with different things. And again, I've gone through every stage, and I feel like we're finally at a stage as a business that can sustain growth, because it's an entirely different thing to say, oh, I'm selling a lot of cigars and you're doing great, but the sustainability of that growth, it's something every company should be paying attention. The forefront of our mind is always our brand, number one, and how do we get it to the consumer faster? How do we get it to the consumer with our quality standards? And how do we continue to enhance our experience with our retailers? It's as simple as that. And we have retailers that come and go all the time, like any other company does. But for us, it's about maintaining a strong business with the ones that are here for the long term. Also, you know what I mean? They're not hobbyists; that they're here to enhance our business and grow our industry. Those are the people who we want to be working with and paying attention to.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's, Omar, I really appreciated this conversation tonight. Thank you so much. We've got a few more fun questions to close out our evening, but it's been great catching up on your,
always great to catch up with you too, buddy.
The 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears that have brought Fratello to market, and now it's like you said, it's a presence in the humidor that went from I just want people to create Fratello moments to now just really thinking about grander scale, international markets, different collections.
Yeah.
The core, the Italian collection, the science and space exploration, it's really great. And you landed on the moon. I mean, all that.
Can't beat that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into some of our, like I said, our final and fun segments. Here we go. Everybody Eats, sponsored by Pestana Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Pestana Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Pestana, everybody eats. So, Omar, I know we've talked about food in the past, and we've talked about food earlier tonight as well. So my question to you in this segment is, what is a food or dish that that you love to make or prepare or share with other people?
I love making sancocho for other people. It is a Dominican based soup style that is very rich, very hearty, lots of different vegetables, lots of different meats, 4 different styles of meat. I'm a big carnivore, so anything that has meat, I absolutely love. So I just love the stages of where it's at, and it's the kind of dish that you can bring into a party, or you can do after it's a rainy day, and just people just absolutely go crazy. And then again, we go back to the pairings here, right? Like, it's not just about the sancocho itself and the stew and the heartiness and how well you make it, but it's about the concon. It's about that rice and the sticky rice in the bottom. It's about the avocado and how ripe that avocado is, and how you're cutting it inside, and how much of that little sometimes a little bit of that hot sauce you put in to bring different experiences. That's what I love to do that for friends and family. And but it's definitely a chore, because it takes about 6, 7, 8 hours sometimes just for that whole process to go through, between your cutting and buying and doing all the different things. So whenever you're in the area, buddy, I got you.
Sounds good. I'd love to try Dominican sancocho. I had the opportunity. I was in Puerto Rico earlier this year for a conference, and it's quite hilarious. The final night there was a party for this conference that I was at, and so like the food is, there's all these great dishes and all these great foods and everything like that. And I kept going back. I had like 4 helpings of, now it was obviously Puerto Rican, not Dominican. It was Puerto Rican sancocho, and I was like, what is this? Like, because all they had the label on it was like just soup or stew or something. I can't remember. A very basic label, and I was like, oh, that looks good. I'll try some, and it was fucking amazing. And I had like three or 4 bowls of it. And so I asked one of the wait staff. I asked her, and we were talking, and I got to practice some Spanish, which was nice. And yeah, she's like, I was like, what? I was like, there's got to be a different. I was like, what is that? And she's like, it's sancocho. And I was like, okay. And she's like, you never heard of sancocho? I'm like, no. And so like we talked a little bit about it, and she actually gave me her family recipe of sancocho. She's Puerto Rican. Yeah, she gave me her family recipe. I was like, hell yes, like let's go. Like that was cool. And I've made it. I've made it, and it wasn't as good as the one that I had that night, but god dang, man, it was fantastic. I can't wait to perfect it over time. I can't wait to try the Dominican version of it as well. It sounds great.
Okay.
So awesome. Well, this next segment is brought to you by Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place. It can be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars. Light up an asylum and choose your refuge. Now, Omar, I think you've had the opportunity to participate in this segment before, but I wanted to go back to a moment in your history, and I was interested to see if maybe you actually maybe were smoking a cigar during this moment. Can you tell us about the moment, if you can pinpoint it to a moment, the moment you decided, I'm leaving NASA, I'm doing this cigar thing full time? Were you smoking a cigar? And if you were, what cigar were you smoking? But tell us about that moment in your personal history.
I know exactly. I know exactly the time of the day, what I was doing before, what I did after, because I was so impacted by it. I had a great job at NASA, as you know. It was a GS-15. I was managing a $5.2 billion budget for the agency. I was on a career track to make a senior executive service by the time I was 35. I made this already by the time I was 15 years, 30 years old. I wasn't even 30. I had made it to the highest level of the government, GS schedule. And so for me, it was a very bold move for anybody, because you have something very secure that you've grown and you've cultivated, and you've been identified as one of the future leaders of the agency. And so I knew where I was. I knew where I was headed. I knew where my career was headed. But there was one thing that terrified me, and it was to be complacent, to just not have something to continue to strive for. And I was walking into NASA one of these days, and it was in the morning, and I had seen this person walk in. It was a GS-14 friend of mine. It came into NASA right around the same time. So right there for about 3 or 4 years ago, and he was wearing this khaki pants, okay, and he was wearing this white T-shirt, okay, same age as me, young guy, like 34, 33, 34 years old, something like that. And I'm looking at him, and I said to myself, this guy, this is the truth, is going to be coming in to NASA every single day for the next 20 years, okay, with a different style, color, Docker pants, or a different kind of tan color shirt, but he's going to be doing it because it's such a secure job and it's such a great agency for the next 25 years. And I didn't want that to be me. That's what made it for me to leave the agency and just do this full time. Sure as hell wasn't, the smart financial idea, because I was probably, by the time I was, 2 years into the brand, I was selling $500,000 worth of cigars. And I was like, doing fantastic. I wasn't pulling a single salary out of the whole thing. I have a $200,000 a year job. I don't have to worry about anything. Everything's going back to the bank or being reinvested in the brand. So financially, I knew I was fantastic. But personally, if I just couldn't stand the possibility that guy could have been me. And so that was the day that I went up to my boss and I told him, after a lot of emotions, that I was going to quit to sell cigars. And that's when he was like, what? You're going to sell cigars? The hell? What are you doing? And I'm like, well, this is kind of like the situation of my business right now. I grew it to this much at this particular situation. I know I can grow it way more if I'm just dedicated full time on it. But it was shocking, because by the time 2016 had come around, I had already increased my business by like 30%. And by 2017, we already blew it out of the water. We're selling overall over $1 million worth of cigars, and it was just, I was at a great place, man. But I just didn't want to be that guy. So that's kind of what pushed me to be where we are right now.
It's either the greatest anti-Dockers ad or the best Dockers ad ever.
Yeah, one of the. And if I knew the shirt, and I'm thinking for sure, that was either a Brooks Brothers, because he was kind of like that kind of level. It's either Brooks Brothers shirt or some sort of Fumagalli. I couldn't know, but I'm telling you right now, bro, I just couldn't do it. That's what did it.
That's crazy. What a moment, right?
Yeah. For sure.
When that choice takes place and everything, and you've worked your entire life to get to this incredibly high level, and then not day one, because it's not like you were starting from scratch at that point. You but it was day one in terms of this second career and everything. Like what was the biggest change that you saw in yourself?
I was able to breathe. I was able to have one lane in my brain rather than two. I had to perform at NASA. You just don't get to that position to, just do what everybody else is doing. I was making decisions. I was making decisions on programs and projects. I was responsible for a gigantic budget. I was responsible for people. I had crazy amounts of responsibilities at the agency, and then on top of that, and then I start Fratello, and then I have three families that depend on me to grow this business, and they have their jobs thanks to Fratello and what Fratello is offering. And so that dual lane of having to balance what the stakes that I had at the agency and the relationships that I had forged and the growth that I had, and not letting anybody down in that field was very important for me. And so I was working 90 plus hours. I still do. I'm not going to lie, but I do it now with one goal in mind, which is Fratello, instead of having both NASA in the back and in the front part of my mind. And the same thing with Fratello. Like, you remember the stories, man. I mean, it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I would work for NASA nonstop, 40 plus hours a week, and then try to fly on a destination on a Thursday night so I can be in Texas or Oklahoma or Washington or Nevada, that Friday, so that I can sell cigars in the afternoon, because I still had to respond to emails. So I had to connect to meetings while I was on the road, sell cigars on a Saturday, and come back home on Sunday and repeat it again. I did it for 4 years. And it was challenging on my brain. So the moment I sat back and I was like, wow, I only have one thing in my brain. It was a big deal.
Right. Well, this will lead us to our last question of the night, Omar, which is our curveball segment, which is always brought to you by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter. Since the company's inception, Steve Saka's been knocking them out of the park. Count them up, 9 consecutive years in the consensus top 3. Congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. So, Omar, this last question is a two-parter. And I'll repeat it if I need to. But the first part of the question is, what was the one thing in your career at Fratello, so in the last 10 plus years, that you thought for sure would be a mistake that ended up being a success? And what was the one thing that you were like, this is going to be a home run, and it flopped? It doesn't have to be a cigar. Just
love it.
Could be a cigar. I'm just saying it's open.
It was a personal hire that I thought was going to be, oh my God. I was bringing in this person, and I thought this person was going to just like take over based on the experience that this person had and all of the bells and whistles. I was like, there is no way that this is not going to flop. I've always taken risk on bringing in people like I did with Jennifer, and that have been part of our industry in the past, but in the way that I saw it from a different optic was just like, my God, this, having somebody like this person on board would be massive, and then it ended up being a flop. And that's when I learned a very important lesson. This isn't the kind of industry that you can just go in and replicate what you did in the past and see how it works with a different company, because there's 2 different brands, there's 2 different styles, there's 2 different budgets, there's a million different things. So that was one for sure. It was a hiring decision from the one that I thought that was going to be, an absolute home run. And then it flopped. But then you said the other one was
you think you knew. It was like, man, there's so much risk in this. This isn't gonna work, but it ended up working.
That was vice versa by far. I I was, oh my God, vice versa definitely made me grayer. This was this was a this was the hardest thing to do by far out of any other cigar I've ever done and produced. Period. End of story. I mean, it was the first of its kind, not the first to ever done. To have a cigar triple capped on both ends because that part has been done already. But the one where the purpose was you can light it up over here and you can start off mild and you light it up over here, start off strong. That message, that focus was and still is I thought it was I thought even to the moment where we were shipping, I would travel to the Dominican Republic, way more than I had did before, just to make sure that the factory was putting the label from where it was supposed to go. Because the last thing I ever wanted to do was somebody would buy two of these cigars, two of the vice versa, which is the recommended strategy, where you can smoke one starting off mild, and you can smoke the other one starting off strong, and then that would be a flopped situation. I just thought it was going to be the hardest thing. The level of peace that I was when we launched it originally was just not there. I was about 70%, which I hate to be. And then all of a sudden, when it came out, and Manuel was saying, "Omar, it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. We got the factories. We got everything. It's working. Everything is perfect." But by the moment that we had launched it, it was just an incredible success. I mean, we sold out within a few months. And people to this day still texting me and asking me questions about if we had the vice versa ready or not, and we're going to launch it again. So that was probably it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I always wondered about that project because you wonder about things that are, the G word that gets thrown around this industry that's like a 4-letter word, gimmick, and there's some that have I'm still behind the contention that gimmicks don't work. So my compliment to you is then since it was so successful is that it wasn't a gimmick.
Yeah,
because gimmicks don't work.
100%.
But it was something when you do something so different, like you said, it wasn't the first necessarily of its kind in a lot of ways, and in some ways it was. But when you do something different, you always run that really big. I mean, that's a huge risk if something's never been done, or or worse yet, if something's failed in the past.
Yeah.
And you pick it back up. You think about Arturo Fuente, you think about Carlito, who the Opus X, hey, you can't grow wrapper. You can't do it. You can't do it in this country. You can't do it in the Dominican. And, the years of futility and adversity that even someone as powerful and prominent as he is in this business faced with coming up with Opus X. Like it's those kinds of stories that ultimately lead to great successes.
100%.
So that's 100%. Really cool. That's really cool. Well, Omar, again, thank you so much for your time tonight. This has been fantastic. I love sitting down with you. It's been too long to sit down in a show environment, but I love seeing you every year, and I love seeing what 10 plus years has done for you, man. I was there in the beginning, and it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to look back and say it's only been 10 years, but in a lot of ways, man, it feels like longer in some ways too. But but what a feat, man. 10 plus years, some great products, some great times, great memories, and I know you're only getting started, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Barry, and always fun to always hang out with you as well. I always look forward to these as well. So next time, no need to go through anybody else. Just text your buddy, man. Let me know.
Yes, sir.
We'll make it happen, baby. Okay?
We'll do it. Absolutely. For all of our audience, thanks for tuning in tonight. Thanks for staying up late with us as always. We really do appreciate all those likes, shares, and comments. Keep them coming. You can always check out our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the little red bell so you get notified every time we post. But you can check us out every Sunday night, except for next Sunday, unfortunately. I'll be at my father's memorial service. We lost my father just a couple months back, and so we'll be having his memorial service. So we'll be honoring the life of the great Bernie Duplessis next week. So I won't be on air, but we will have a amazing set of guests that are followed up, including a couple of exclusives celebrating our infamous birthday episode that I do every year on my birthday. So that'll be coming up as well. And then, as I mentioned to Omar earlier in the episode, we're about to be 7 years old. So we'll be celebrating our 7th anniversary in November. That'll be a very special show as well. So keep tuning in. We've got some great guests coming your way. Don't forget to always hit the like button on our Facebook page. And if you are listening to us later on podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, including iHeartRadio, don't forget to hit the subscribe, download, and review buttons. If you are a subscriber, do me a favor, hit unsubscribe. But don't forget to hit resubscribe because that helps my numbers. Tonight's audio broadcast is always brought to you by Grand Habano Cigars. Honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today. And thank you to the one gentleman who left me a 1-star review on Apple Podcasts and told me it's because my audio sucks. That is constructive feedback. I appreciate that. We're working on it. We may only be at 304 episodes, but we're still working on making things right. So we do appreciate all those likes, shares, and comments. Keep them coming. But for everybody out there, I'm Bear Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. He's Omar de Frias. And guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.
Cheers.